What happens when sisters defy tradition? Watch as these courageous women break free from societal expectations and forge their own paths to success. Before we continue, please, do not forget to subscribe for more inspiring African folktales like this one. It means a lot to us. Let's continue. Once upon a time in the quiet village of Umuleki, lived 4 sisters, Adaora, Amaka, Ifeoma, and Ndidi. They were the daughters of Mama Oda, a widow known for her strict voice and tired eyes. Their father, Papa Arens, had passed away when Adaora, the eldest, was only 12. Since then, Mama Oda had carried the weight of the family on her back, selling roasted groundnuts at the market and doing people's laundry just to put food on the table. They lived in a 2-room house near the edge of the village, with walls that cracked during rainy season and a roof that whistled with every strong wind. But their home was filled with love, arguments, prayers, and, most of all, dreams. Even though no one was allowed to speak them aloud. In Umuleki, girls were taught to be seen and quiet, to cook well, kneel when greeting elders, and marry young. Marriage wasn't just expected, it was the price. If a girl stayed too long in school, people whispered, she'll chase all the men away. A woman without a husband was seen as useless, no matter how smart or kind she was. Mama Oda, shaped by that same system, believed she was doing right by her daughters. You must marry well, she always said. A woman without a man is like a basket with holes, nothing stays. But Adaora wanted more than marriage. She longed to learn how to sew and one day open her own boutique. Amaka wanted to wear a nurse's uniform and help the sick. Ifeoma, always quiet, spent her nights sketching on scraps of old newspaper, dreaming of one day designing album covers and posters. Ndidi, the youngest, was just 14 but already talked about becoming a teacher, like the woman who once gave her a free notebook at school. Still, every time they mentioned anything beyond marriage, Mama Oda would shout, "Are you not a woman? Must you disgrace me before our kinsmen?" So the girls stayed silent. They obeyed. But they were not happy. The first real struggle came when Adaora turned 18. Her mother, Mama Ada, informed her that a suitor from a wealthy family will be bringing palm wine and kola nuts to ask for her hand. Mama Oda danced that day. But Adaora didn't smile. That night, after everyone slept, she sat outside under the mango tree and cried into her wrapper. Amaka found her there and held her hand. "I don't want this life," Adaora whispered. Amaka said nothing at first. Then, in a low voice, she replied, "You're not alone." That moment was like the striking of a match. Something small, but powerful. That night, all 4 sisters sat in a circle, their faces lit only by the weak glow of a lantern. They spoke about their fears, their dreams, and the invisible rope tradition had wrapped around their necks. They didn't have a plan. But they had each other. And that was the beginning of something powerful. The day Adaora was meant to meet her suitor's family, everything felt heavy. The house smelled of fried plantain and jollof rice. Neighbors peeked through their windows. Aunties arrived early, clapping and laughing too loud. But Adaora's heart was not there. Quietly, she walked to Mama Oda's room, knelt down, and said, "Mama, please, I need to speak with you." Mama Oda, dressed in her finest wrapper, turned and frowned. "What is it, Adaora? Are you ready?" "No, Mama," Adaora said, her voice trembling. "I want to say sorry for how today will look. But I can't do this. I don't want to marry him. I want to learn tailoring. I want to open a shop and sew clothes for people. I want something different." Mama Oda stared at her as if she didn't understand the language. Then she looked away and started adjusting her head tie. She didn't say a word. "Mama," Adaora whispered again. Still no answer. Later that day, when the suitor's family arrived and saw Adaora missing, Mama Oda stood in the middle of the compound and spoke with her back straight and voice loud. I don't know what got into my daughter. She has chosen disgrace. She turned her back on respect. Everyone went quiet. The man's people left without a word. The neighbors didn't laugh. They just looked. That look, full of silent questions and hidden judgment, followed Mama Oda to the market and the church for days. Inside the house, no one said much. Mama Oda moved like a ghost, doing chores with force. At night, she sighed loudly so they could all hear. She didn't speak to Adaora. But the sisters felt it, something had changed. Amaka began staying longer after school. One day, she approached Auntie Busy at the clinic. I want to be a nurse, she said. Even if I have to find a way on my own. Auntie Busy smiled sadly and said, you need courage. Ifeoma, inspired by Adaora, started sketching again. She even sold a small drawing for 50 naira to a local barber who liked her style. Ndidi began asking questions in school that made her teachers blink. Each sister, in her own quiet way, started stepping out of line, just a little. But in a place like Imuleki, even small steps felt like shouting. That week, under the old mango tree, Adaora looked at her sisters and said, I told Mama everything. I spoke from my heart. And she still didn't hear me. Amaka squeezed her hand and replied, she heard you. She just doesn't know what to do with your truth yet. And so the sisters made a promise under the stars, they would walk this new path together, even if the whole world turned its back on them. The days after Adaora spoke her truth were full of quiet tension. Mama Oda still didn't speak much. She moved around the house like a shadow with weight in her steps and worry in her eyes. But the silence didn't stop the sisters. In fact, it made them closer. Amaka took the first bold step. She collected a nurse training form from Auntie Busy at the clinic, hiding it inside one of her old school notebooks. When Adaora found it, she didn't scold her. She simply sat beside her and said, let's fill it out together. As the eldest, Adaora was already confident with reading and writing. She had once helped their father manage sales at his small provision store before he passed. They spread the form on the floor one night after Mama Oda had gone to bed. With a soft pencil and steady hands, Adaora guided Amaka through each section, helping her understand the requirements and spelling out the words she couldn't yet write. The form was just paper, but it felt like a seed being planted in the dark. Adaora, in return, asked Amaka for help in another way, not with reading, but with measuring and cutting fabric. If I'm going to be a tailor, I need to get my hands used to this now, she said. They practiced quietly in the backyard with torn clothes and old wrappers, using empty tomato tins as pin holders. Ifeoma was the quiet observer. But she, too, began moving forward. Every afternoon, she crossed the road to watch Uncle Martins, the spray painter. She didn't say much, just stood by the gate and stared at how he mixed colors like magic. One day, he waved her over. You've been watching for weeks, he said. Come closer. She did. That evening, she came home smelling of paint and holding a sheet of white cardboard. On it was her first proper artwork, a mix of red and yellow shapes. Adaora clapped. Amaka hugged her. Even Ndidi whistled. You're a real artist now, she said. Ndidi, young and bright, had also started teaching the neighbors' twins how to read. At first, it was just for fun. Then their mother started giving her small coins in return. One afternoon, she placed the coins into Adaora's palm and said, buy more thread for your sewing. It was a small gesture. But to Adaora, it felt like a mountain had moved. One night, as the sisters sat under the mango tree, Adaora looked at each of them with pride. I don't know what the world will give us, she said. But I know we've already started becoming who we're meant to be. Mama Oda watched them from a distance that night, arms crossed. Her face gave nothing away. But the village had begun to whisper. It didn't take long before the people of Umuleki began to notice. Whispers followed the sisters like shadows. At the water well, women murmured, "Did you hear? Adaora refused a marriage proposal." At the market, a trader hissed, "Amaka now wears white shoes like a nurse. Who gave her the right?" Even at church, the looks were different, curious, cold, or worse, pitying. But not everyone frowned. One morning, Miss Lara, Ndidi's teacher, stopped Mama Oda after school. "Your daughters are brave," she said. "Especially Ndidi. She helps the little ones in class, and they love her. You should be proud." Mama Oda didn't answer. Her eyes were tired, her lips pressed into a hard line. "Children don't eat dreams," she finally muttered, and walked away. At home, the sisters kept going. Adaora took a risk and borrowed an old sewing machine from a woman down the street whose daughter had moved to Lagos. "I'll pay with small chores," she said. Every day after helping the woman with errands, she practiced stitches on torn clothes. Her fingers bled sometimes, but she never stopped. Amaka began cleaning the clinic's waiting area for free, just to be close to the nurses. "You think they'll pay you with certificates?" one man laughed. But she didn't answer him. She was too busy learning the names of medicines from Auntie Busy. Ifeoma got bolder. She painted a mural, bright red, blue, and orange, on the back wall of the mechanic's shed. It showed a woman in a wrapper standing tall with her fists raised. Some people clapped. Others shook their heads. A girl drawing on walls now? What next? Even Ndidi, the youngest, gave a speech during her school's morning assembly. She stood in front of the students, hands shaking, and said, "Girls can lead too. And we are more than our dowries." The whole school went silent. Then, a few girls started clapping. A teacher pulled her aside later and warned her, "Be careful. You're only a child." But the fire had already been lit. The sisters' actions started opening eyes. Other girls in the township began to dream out loud. One whispered to Adaora, "I want to learn baking." Another followed Amaka to the clinic and asked how to become a nurse. At night, under the mango tree, the sisters sat close. "I think they are watching us," Ifeoma said. "They are," Adaora replied. "But maybe this time, they'll see more than what they expect." The change the sisters sparked didn't come quietly. For every girl they inspired, there was a loud voice trying to shut them down. One Sunday after church, as the sisters walked home together, a group of elder women stopped Mama Oda near the mango tree. "Your daughters have forgotten their place," one woman snapped. "They are becoming a bad example," another added. "Adaora now walks around like a man. Amaka scrubs clinic floors instead of preparing for marriage. Is that not shameful?" Mama Oda said nothing. But her face burned with a mix of pride and pain. When she got home, she sat on her bed and wept. Not loud, just small, dry sobs that came from somewhere deep. That night, she finally spoke. Her voice was low, but the room went still. "Do you girls know how many women live with broken dreams just to be called good daughters? Do you know how many times I swallowed tears just so no one would call me a failure?" Adaora knelt beside her. "Mama, we are not trying to shame you. We just want a different life. One where we choose, not just obey." "I know," Mama Oda whispered. "But the world is not kind to girls who choose." Amaka added gently, "Then maybe we can teach the world to be different." For a long time, Mama Oda didn't respond. But she didn't fight anymore either. That was the first night she didn't scold them for staying up late. She just let them be. The backlash continued. A boy threw paint on Ifeoma's mural. Amaka was denied access to a community health seminar. Ndidi was told to stop talking like a woman with too many ideas. But even through the pain, the sisters pressed forward. And something strange began to happen. Other women began to take notice. A widow asked Adaora to make her a dress. Another brought her daughter to learn drawing from Ifeoma. A quiet girl from Ndidi's school brought her storybook and asked if they could read it together. The sisters had become more than rebels. They were becoming hope. One night, Mama Ode came outside and stood under the mango tree while her daughters laughed. "I used to think you were shaming me," she said quietly. "But maybe you're saving me." Adaora looked at her mother. "No, Mama. We are saving each other." Months passed, and the village of Umuleki began to shift. It didn't happen overnight. But slowly, the air changed. What once brought shame now stirred curiosity. What was once mocked now began to earn respect. Adaora's tiny tailoring business grew. With the sewing machine she borrowed and the little money she saved for mending clothes, she bought her first set of fabric. She stitched wrappers, simple gowns, and school uniforms. Women came in secret at first, ashamed to be seen supporting her. But soon they stopped hiding. Amaka finally got accepted into a nursing foundation program in a nearby town. Mama Oda sold some of her late husband's things to help her buy supplies. The day Amaka left, the whole compound was quiet. But the pride in Mama Oda's eyes said everything. Ifeoma was invited by Uncle Martins to paint a full mural at the township center. This time, nobody threw paint. Instead, children gathered to watch her work, some holding pencils of their own. She taught them to draw trees and faces and suns that smiled. Ndidi's voice became louder. She led a reading group at school and helped organize a small event for girls with goals. She wrote her first short story and read it aloud in class. The title was, "What My Sisters Taught Me." The sisters were no longer just girls with dreams. They were proof that tradition could bend without breaking families apart. Their story spread, not just in Umuleki, but to nearby villages. Girls started writing their names bolder on classroom chalkboards. Mothers began asking questions. Even a few fathers started listening more. One afternoon, Mama Ada stood outside her house and saw a group of girls sitting under the mango tree, notebooks open, voices soft but sure. She shook her head and smiled. "It started here," she whispered. That night, Adaora wrote in her journal, "We didn't mean to become leaders. We only wanted to live fully." But maybe that's how change begins, not with shouting, but with sisters holding hands and refusing to let go. Moral of the story. Real change starts when we stop waiting for permission to dream and start walking in truth, together. Sisterhood, support, and bravery can break even the strongest chains of tradition. When one girl rises, many others follow. Did this story touch your heart? Subscribe to discover more stories of courage and culture. Share this tale with someone who believes in the power of support and dreaming beyond limits. Thank you for staying with us to end of the story.